All right, everybody. Second time I'm recording this video. I think I've got it right now. Yes, so content planning in org mode. This is the big one. This is the video I've wanted to make for a while. It's the big kahuna, I think, of org mode and Emacs productivity. Doing your content planning in a general purpose way for different types of projects you might be working on. You'll see here I have it. I have some of these types of projects listed as like articles because it's good for a writing process. But I think you'll find that like the system as I have it here also works for videos or other kinds of assignments. Anything that has a repeatable sequence of steps that you go through over and over again, right? So if it's something you're writing, you might have a sort of a just an idea, like an inbox of ideas where you have a whole list of stuff you might want to write about, and then you might have a research phase and then a drafting phase. And then from drafting, you might have to do some formatting or getting images or some next step before it gets to the scheduling part where you put it on the calendar and it's ready to go out. You might have to schedule social media. Who knows? You might have a whole list of things that you do each time, and having that one piece of content go through each point over and over again. What it does is it lets you come right in and start working without much friction. You see exactly what's coming up, what you've done, what stage of the process it's at. So basically, we're doing that in org mode. And of course, the benefit of that is why bother? Like, what isn't Emacs just like a terminal editor that you have to get into when you're in a server and then you can't find your way out of? No, it's not that. It's an actual app, really. It's like it's just like your Microsoft Visual Studio sort of. But yeah, so it's plain text, right? So there's no fooling around. That's why we like it. If you're new to Emacs, I'm not going to have to sell you on it. I think you might know why you're interested in it. But the system I'm showing here, why you're watching, is this is kind of like an alternative to Trello or the other Kanban style apps where you have, like I said, those different repeatable steps in the process where you move that piece of content along till it gets to the end, and then you archive it, throw it away, or do whatever you need with it. So we're going to put that repeatable sequence of steps into our org mode agenda view. And we're going to do all of the work from the agenda. So you don't even really need to go into your file system and open, project folder number 1, subfolder number 2, subfolder number 3. It's all going to be done from the org agenda. And we're also going to have a way to use the org capture system to capture ideas while you're working. So if you're working on something and you have an idea, just open up the dispatcher here, hit K for content idea and capture it without having to stop your work, and it'll go to your list of ideas, which will be separate from your steps, because when you're working on moving your piece of content through your steps, you don't need to see that long list of ideas that you'll have, especially if you do times where you just dedicate some time to content idea generation, where you're just sort of brainstorming and getting ideas out. So you might have like 100 things you want to do, 100 pieces of content, but you don't want to see that in your actual planning phases once the content is entered that stage. So we're going to have that as well. And we're going to organize all the projects for each file using org mode attachments. So these are just some of the ways that I found over the years works best for me. But I think you can get ideas from this and design a system that works slightly differently, or just customize what I have. It's very open, which is why I want to do this short and sweet, because you might generate ideas for you. You might not just want to see what I'm doing. So we're going to proceed along through here. And when I say we're doing everything through an org file, every project is going to be a heading in an org file. So this is project 1, or this is new YouTube video. One single org file is going to hold all of these. The top node items, the level 1 headings, are basically going to be projects. That's like the unit that starts everything. So that's the theory behind it. So we'll jump right into it. So before we get into the demonstration of how you set this up, technically, I just want to show you an example process, kind of go through it, starting from the end result, right? So as I said, we do all the work from the org agenda. So that's Control C and A, if you put it on that key, which is the one that the org mode documentation recommends. So I use it. You'll see here you have a whole bunch of different options. This is the agenda dispatcher that will launch the org mode agenda. So you can set up different views, as you may already know, for tags or certain properties. And it'll go through whatever agenda file you've set, whatever file you want the agenda to look at. It'll parse through it and return what you want. What we've done here is I set up custom commands that show me a certain view that I want to see. So I've called it the one view, my article process. And as I said, these don't have to be articles. They can be videos or anything else. So I have that on capital P for process. So I hit capital P, and this is the agenda view. The top here is just a basic agenda, where you would see, if it was a week view, you'd see a whole week. I have it automatically set on the day view. So this will just show you anything that's upcoming that might have like a due date on it or a deadline or something that's scheduled for a certain day. It'll pop up there. And here is where you'll see the steps of the publishing process. So I set these up. As I said, you can customize them to whatever you want. This is a flow that I think has worked well for me, because I've thought of so many different ways of giving sort of meaning or context to what a piece of content is up to at a certain stage. And this is basically what I found. You've got like your research and development phase, where you've just kind of you've taken this out of the general pile of ideas, and now you've said, okay, I'm going to dedicate some mental space to researching and developing this idea further. And from there, you might cancel it or throw it away, but at least that's where it is for now. And then you go into a drafting phase, where you might write a first draft, you might write a second draft. It depends on your deliverables and what you're sending out there. But basically, so I don't have to have a redundant first draft, second draft, third draft, because what if you do 10 drafts? So I just have a drafting phase, and that can encompass anything as you need it. And then possibility, if something is sitting and waiting, meaning let's say you're writing articles, you have a blog or something, something is written, it's sitting, it's just waiting to go up on your blog. That might sit there for some reason. So you might need to go get images, or go back and do some CSS tweaking, or you might need to convert your org mode to HTML. Anything like that is kind of in this sitting phase, where you've got a finished piece of content. You've done the serious mental straining of the drafting is done. It's just sitting and waiting. And then published is the final stage. I also have a final state, a done state of just done and canceled. But typically, there's no need for those to be in the main flow. You may cancel something, and then you'll want it to be registered as canceled, or something that maybe is if you had like a to-do item that you moved through this process that didn't really have a deliverable, you just want to be reminded of it, so you might just mark that as done. The reason I want to see stuff that's published here is, like, if you do, say, a weekly review, or you go back and you look at what you did, and you see, oh wow, I've published 3-4 articles. Wow, that's pretty good. And you might want to go back and see that before you archive them forever. So that's why that's there. So that's the general article process. And as I said, there's also the idea list. So if we do Control A again and hit capital I, you see this would be full of ideas. So let's go ahead and actually let's actually run through it before I talk too long. So capturing an idea, Control C and the letter C again opens up the I guess the dispatcher for the capture system. I have a capture template set up for a piece of content, and that's on the letter K. K for content, right? So hit the letter K, and my template prompts you for a category. You'll see why categories are helpful. So let's say this is from an article from my website. So the category is website. Article about org mode content planning. So Control C, R to refresh the idea view. Now there's an idea there. Let's capture another one. Control C, K for content. Let's say this is a YouTube video about content planning. And you can see here the options. You can refile this, you can abort it, or to finish it, Control C, Control C. So now reload the ideas, and you'll see why putting a category is important is because you can, if you just want to see your YouTube videos and you're hovering over the YouTube heading here, or the YouTube category, you can do a shift and the less than symbol, and it'll just show you YouTube stuff. So it'll filter basically, and then you can do the less than symbol again to remove that filtering. So if you've got like 100 ideas in here and you just want to see the ones for your blog or just for YouTube, filter it that way. It's good to do the categories, I've found. That way you can keep everything in one org file and you don't have to have things nested in subheadings or across different files. For me, I've tested different ways. This is the easiest that I've found. So in Q, we'll quit that view. So let's actually go back and let's take an idea into the process. So let's say we want to take this YouTube video into the content process. I've decided FP is a to-do state. That signifies the idea phase. FP stands for fat pitch. Right? Oh boy, I've got a fat pitch. I've got a great idea. The point is, like, I named it something silly like that because to illustrate that you can make it whatever you want. That means something to me. So that's what FP designates that it's an idea. So when you're ready to take it into the next phase, that key command I did was Control C, Control T, which will bring up the next stages. Each one has a little hotkey for it. So the letter R will put it in the RDX, the research, development, and execution phase. So hit R. So now you see the to-do state has changed from FP to RDX. If I refresh this view, you'll see it's gone. So now, you can keep, even your list of ideas is organized because that piece of content has left the ideas and it's gone into the content process, the content development process, whatever you want to call it. So Control CA to bring up the agenda dispatcher again, capital P for article process. You'll see now that YouTube video has now entered the process. It's under research and development. Now let me just show you though, if you give this a due date, Control C, Control D, let's say it's due on the 9th of December, like I want to give myself a deadline. I find that you can I work pretty well under deadlines. It also gives you a natural sense of priority. So, and again, this is optional. You can get this agenda out of your article process view if you don't want to see it, but I think it can be helpful to see a regular agenda view because it tells you how many days you have left before this is due. So it depends on what motivates you more to get moving, like just moving stuff through the process or actually seeing, wow, this is due in 10 days and the video script isn't even done yet. I've really got to be working on this. So I left the agenda view in there to show that it's optional. It depends on how you like to work. If you generally don't have deadlines, then it's fine. I believe you can remove a deadline with Control C, Control D, and the space bar. No, I don't think that was it. There is a way. Maybe it's Shift. No, I forgot. Okay, there is a way to get it. There's a way. Besides actually just deleting it, you can actually, if you hit Enter, it'll take you to the org mode file where all these pieces of content are, and you can just delete the deadline and go back to the dispatcher, and you'll see it's gone. But I wanted to show you that because I think deadlines can be really helpful to give you some natural priority in the process. All right, so now this is in research and development. Here's a good time to demonstrate the attachment feature. So like I said, if you hit Enter, or actually let's say Shift F, it'll show you follow mode. It'll show you, so in your org file you just have a heading here, and all this is a heading in a plain text file. So what good does that really do for you? Because you're doing a video about content planning, you probably need to write a script, right? So what you'd usually do is you'd open up a file, you'd open your file manager, go into folder, with video scripts, open new file, start writing your script, and then when you come in tomorrow to work, you go, okay, okay, I'm research and developing, go into the video scripts. Okay, what did I call that file? See, that was, for me, that felt like a little too much friction to have to go into the few extra steps. So as I said, you're doing everything from the agenda, so you don't turn off follow mode. So you don't have to remember what folder you're saving everything in. So what I found the best way around that is with attachments. So Control C, Control A, while you're hovered over it, you get this long menu of different attachments you can create. You can attach a file by copying it from another location or moving it from another location, or just you can hit C if you have like a template. If you just want to copy the same template over and over again, you can use C. That's what I would usually do for, because some org mode files, you may have certain options you like to use over and over again. But for the sake of simplicity, just hit N here. We can name the file anything we want. We could call it script.org. That's again the great thing you'll see here is when we save this, it has saved that. If you look at in the mini buffer here, the attachment system has saved this file in a deeply nested directory substructure that is built with these hashes here. So now you don't even need to think of a clever file name. You can literally name if you're making videos, every video script you make can just be called script.org, and it's an org file, my video script. This is a great video. So you can, for me, that's great because, again, it's keeping everything organized for me. So I don't have to, not only do I not have to remember or care where I put it, I can always just get right to work by opening up and you can even get rid of this menu here, because once you know the options you like, you don't need to see it every time. But what I can do is hit Shift F, and that will bring me into Dired here. And this is it. So again, and you don't even have to remember, obviously you don't have to remember this complicated directory substructure. It remembers it for you. That's the point. So it'll actually, there's a command to just jump you into that directory. You can open your file and keep working. So you're doing all your work from the agenda. It shaves a lot of friction off the process, I find. Let's go back to now that we've done the attachments. So now you're in your research and development. You've attached a file to this so that you can put your ideas, or as you're doing your research. At some point, you feel like, okay, I'm ready to draft this document or this script or whatever it is. So Control C, Control T to open up the ToDo sequence. Hit D and you move it. It's into the drafting phase. And let's say you've opened up your file, you've drafted it, everything is done the way you want, and you don't even you can skip the sitting and waiting part, and you go ahead and publish it. You'll see it published, canceled, and done are green because they have been marked as done states. And a done state is treated differently than a to-do state, obviously. And so that's some extra logic that you can use for other reasons. But for our purposes here, just to help me get used to the system so I can do it quickly without having to, you can kind of do it by rote. I've designated the done states to capital letters and the to-do states to lowercase letters. Again, it's just a little trick to help me remember, because the idea is you don't have to remember all these keys. You do it so much that you just do it quickly. So Shift P for published. Hit R to refresh the view. And now it's that video has been published. So you can, when you do your weekly review or whatever, you can just decide to archive it, let's say, or whatever you want. I have it set here in the org file. You see, I have an archive file called archive.org. This is in my home directory, so I didn't specify what directory because it'll just use whatever the nearest directory is. So yeah, that's where the file's going to go when it's done, and I can do that from the agenda view as well. I can hit Control C, Control X, and Control A, and you see now that subtree is archived in the archives.org folder, so our file. So if we go to archives.org, you'll see it actually tells you, it gives me these timestamps, and I'll show you how we program those in. It tells you when it entered research and development from idea, when it went from research to drafting, and when it went from drafting to published. You have a timestamp if you need that information. And there's actually an option where you can put this log into a property or into a drawer, like properties here. It's like a logbook drawer. You can name it whatever you want, but it can, so you don't have to see these if you want. It doesn't look like it's really doing me too much trouble there. So it'll also show you when you archive something, you've got dates of when it was archived, what file, what category it was in, what to-do state it was in when you archived it. So you can see if you canceled something, you can see that it was archived from the canceled phase. So it keeps track of all that for you. So it's, if you ever need it, it might be good to have. And this is also the ID on this is the directory that the attachment system used. So so yeah, that's basically the whole process. So again, now let's see how it works on the back end. I've gone on a little too long here, but so basically to customize this, you can do all this with some custom Emacs Lisp, and it'll give you examples to all that in the documentation. I've been using the custom system because I just think it's it makes my config file just a little less cumbersome. Generally, going forward now, I'm trying to have those configuration files to be a little more straightforward, and so that means doing more with the custom system. So to do this, I would say first customize your to-do sequence. You can do it in the org mode file. I'll just show you really quick, like the easiest way. You do seq_ to do, and you can have the states that I have, right? FP, RDX. You can put all of them right here, and then you Control-C, refresh the file, or just open Emacs again, and you'll have those to-do states there. But what I've done this time is I've done that as well in the custom system. So any org file that you use as an agenda file will have those, will inherit that sequence. And I believe you can even have different sequences for different processes, but I haven't tried that yet. So to do that, Alt-X, of course, and do customize option. And so you can do org to do keywords. And this is it here. You just put in each keyword. You can insert as many as you want. Some of you may be familiar with how the custom system works here. Basically, this is just, it gives me this GUI where I can click on things and it converts it. It'll write, it's basically writing Emacs Lisp for me into a file. So it's pretty cool. So I just have the whole process laid out here, and you do a pipe here to indicate when the done states start. And so you just go through and list each phase in the process. What I did here also in parentheses, you can give some additional options. That letter is the hotkey that I showed you when we did Control-C, Control-T, and you just hit a letter to choose what state you wanted to put it in. Otherwise, you cycle through them with Shift or something else, but that makes it only linear. When you put a key assignment on it, you can skip steps if you need to. So I feel like it's better to use those. And as I said, I use the lowercase letters. So when I put something into the RDX, the research phase, I do the letter R. Drafting is D. Done is capital D. Published is capital P. And I put an exclamation point here that's what gives us the log and the timestamps when something entered what phase. And you can also, I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe if you check the documentation, if you use the @ symbol, it'll prompt you to leave a note. So you can leave like a log note with the timestamp. So if you wanted to know why you canceled a certain idea, it can prompt you to leave a note on that, or you can just write it yourself into the org file. But again, if you want to do everything from the agenda and you don't want to spend too much time in the org file, it can be good to prompt you to give a little note on there. So they've really thought of everything. It's amazing. So, and of course, when you change anything in custom, hit apply and save. And you'll see it wrote it to my custom file right there. So that's how you set up the to-do sequence keywords, or to-do keywords. So now when you open up your file, it'll have those So let's say we had a new one here. All that stuff is saved, so it's you don't have to have it in the file. The next thing, of course, is we're going to customize the option for org agenda files. So this tells the org agenda what files to look into for your content. So I just have it in one file. As I said, I used categories, so I don't have to have multiple files or be sub-nesting stuff beneath certain categories, which you can do if you want to do that. And it's just one simple file, articles.org, in the home directory. So that couldn't be simpler. And we save that. And then we're going to customize the option for org. Oh, wait, no, actually, it's even simpler than that. If you open up the org agenda dispatcher, Control-C-A, and you'll see here, capital C, configure custom agenda command. So you don't even need to remember what option that is or what variable. You just hit Shift-C, and now you can customize the agenda view. This is the sequence of steps listed out, and you just hit insert to do different steps in the command series. Basically, is what they call it. So when you insert one of these, it'll have an example one in there, and you can just customize it. It's already set for command series to go through all agenda files. So you can have as many files as you want, but obviously simpler is better. And so here, as I showed you, the first step in the article process was the agenda view, a basic agenda. So you can delete that if you want. You don't have to have one of those. The next one, of course, is a to-do keyword search. So and you change these by clicking the menu here. But a to-do keyword search is going to search for the next to-do keyword, so RDX. And you can insert additional options like sorting options and other things beneath that keyword search match. That's what's generating the view. The only other option I like to use is the one org agenda overriding header. That's what labels each step in the process. It puts a headline over it, so you're not just seeing the keyword. You're giving it the additional context, and you just do that for each step in the process. And of course, the one for ideas is the same. It's just all it does is it does a keyword search for the idea stage, FP, and you give it a headline of ideas. And again, see, you can put whatever you want in there. So you can really completely customize this to your own steps, your own headings you want to put on each step, whatever you want. And that's really it. That's doing it from the custom side. I think that's a really easy way to do it, and that's what I like to do. But yeah, I'm going to cut it off there because it's almost 30 minutes. But we did an example running it through the system. We did how to set it up with custom, and again, being aware that you can do it all in with just some custom eLists. But I like recently keeping the config file a little more minimalist, so doing it through custom. And that's about it. So what's left? What's next for you to do? You don't have any excuses now. You can just create content, throw whatever you want at this system, and it'll handle it. So get busy. What are you still doing here? See you all next time.